This is the video for Chapter 15, Section 5, Oregon Country. If you look at the map in the corner here, the pink area in the top corner is Oregon Country. This is the area we'll be talking about throughout the rest of this section. Let's go over the few things you need to keep in mind while going over the section. First, the less than essential question. How justifiable was U.S. expansion in the 1800s? So when you learn about how the United States acquired the Oregon Country, try to think about how justifiable was the way they were acquiring it. And the section essential questions that need to be copied down on your section essential question worksheet are 1. Which of these was an incentive for settlers to travel in Oregon Country? 2. Which of these was a campaign slogan in President Polk's 1844 campaign? And 3. What describes President Polk? Keep these questions in mind as you go throughout the unit. Remember, make sure you copy these down on your worksheet so you can get full credit.
By the late 1830s, the Oregon Country was becoming well known to people living in the United States, though few white men had ever been there. First reports about the Oregon Country came from several sources. Captain James Cook, an English explorer, told of the area in a report published in 1784. The American explorers Lewis and Clark, in 1805, described the resources of the Oregon area. In 1810, John Jacob Astor, a wealthy American merchant, established Fort Astoria in Oregon. The fort could be reached by either an overland or sea route. It became a headquarters for trappers and traders who searched for the fur-bearing animals of Oregon. Within a few years, a number of trading posts were established in Oregon by the Canadian Northwest and Hudson's Bay companies to handle the valuable fur trade. Following the trappers and traders came missionaries who brought the Christian way of life to the wilds of Oregon. In the United States, in the late 1830s, a bill was presented to Congress offering free land in Oregon to Americans who would settle there. To people who had been having hard times due to poor crops and poor prices, thoughts about a new region and a new start in life were very tempting. By the early 1840s, families from Missouri, Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, and even the Atlantic seaboard states started for Oregon. Covered wagons, sometimes drawn by horses, more often by oxen or mules, were used to make the long journey over the trail to Oregon. The jumping-off place was Independence, Missouri, and from there the trail wound through plains, deserts, and mountains. Nearly 2,000 miles of wilderness, dotted by a few trading posts and military forts. This way west became known as the Oregon Trail and was heavily traveled by pioneers during the 1840s and 50s.
In 1819, Oregon was claimed by 4 nations: Russia, Spain, Great Britain, and the United States. Eventually, Spain and Russia would give up their claim on the Oregon Country through treaties, but Great Britain still had claim to the area. So eventually, they agreed to a peaceful occupation, or both of them remaining in the area but staying at peace with each other. The first American settlers to travel through South Pass to Oregon were missionaries. These missionaries made few converts among the Oregon Indians, but their glowing reports of Oregon's fertile soil and towering forests attracted more settlers. These early settlers wrote letters home describing Oregon as a pioneer's paradise. The weather was always sunny, they claimed. Disease was unknown. The trees grew as thick as hairs on a dog's back, and the farms were free for the taking. One man even joked that pigs are running about under the great acorn trees, round and fat and already cooked, with knives and forks sticking in them so you can cut off a slice whenever you are hungry. Along with Texas, Oregon fever also played a role in the 1844 presidential campaign. Polk won the election with such stirring slogans as "All of Oregon or None" and "54-40 or Fight." Polk promised he would not rest until the United States had annexed all of Oregon country. Because remember, at this time, they had split Oregon country and were sharing it with Great Britain peacefully. But he wanted all of Oregon for the United States. He didn't want it enough, though, to risk starting going to war. Instead, he agreed to a compromise treaty that divided the Oregon roughly in half at the 49th parallel. That is the line that now marks the western border between the United States and Canada. Alright, let's finish up the section by going over the section essential questions. 1. Which of these was an incentive for settlers to travel to Oregon country? The fertile farmland was the major incentive for why all the new settlers came to Oregon. Number 2, which was a campaign slogan in President Polk's 1844 campaign? The answer will be all of Oregon or none. Because remember, he ran with the idea of promising that we're not going to share Oregon anymore. We want it for our own. What describes President Polk? He wanted the United States to increase its territory. Remember, he went after Texas, he went after Oregon, he wanted more land. That's what he wanted to be known for. Now that we've covered the information you need to know for Section 5, you need to make sure you have the 3 things done you need for this section. 1. The section essential questions and answers need to be copied down on the section essential questions worksheet. 2. The interactive notebook questions need to be answered in complete sentences. And 3. You need to reassess yourself on the scale and put today's date on the scale, marking where you are. When you've done all this, you've completed Section 5.